If you have systems administrator responsibilities, you might be involved in joining machines to the Active Directory domain. Remember from our introduction to AD that computers can be joined or bound to Active Directory. Joining a computer to Active Directory means two things: that AD knows about the computer and has provisioned a computer account for it, and that computer knows about the Active Directory domain and authenticates with it. Over here, I'm logged into a Windows computer that isn't joined to a domain. This is called a workgroup computer. The name comes from Windows workgroups, which are a collection of standalone computers that work together. Windows workgroups aren't centrally administered, so they become harder and harder to manage as the size of the network grows. We want central administration and authentication in our network, so let's join this computer to the domain. Let's look at the GUI for this first, then PowerShell. So I'm going to go ahead and click Computer, then System Properties. As you can see, this computer is under a workgroup. So what we need to do is we need to join this machine to the domain. To do that, I'm going to go ahead and click Change Settings. Click on Change. In the Computer Name and Domain Changes window, you can see the computer can either be a member of a domain or a workgroup, but not both at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and select the domain right here. And I'm going to go ahead and enter our domain name, which is example.com. Now, when I click OK, this computer will reach out on the network to find a domain controller for my AD domain. Once it finds the DC, I'll be asked for a username and password to authorize the computer to be joined to the domain. So I put in my domain admin username and password, which I'm going to do right now. Voila! There you go. My machine is now joined to my domain. The domain controller creates a computer account in the domain for this computer, and this computer reconfigures itself to use AD authentication services. This will require a reboot, so let's jump over to the Active Directory Administrative Center to see what it looks like on that end. Alright, so I'm at my Active Directory window, and I'm going to go ahead and click Computers. And alright, there it is. I can see my computer in the computers container. Now, my new computer will use this Active Directory domain for authentication, and I can use group policy to manage this machine. We can join computers to the domain from PowerShell too. I've got this computer over here that also needs to be joined to the domain, so let's use a CLI this time. So I'm going to go ahead and type in add computer, then domain name, example.com, and server that I'm going to connect to, DC1. That was nice and simple. Now I'm prompted for my credentials again, which I'm going to enter. And that's it. By default, this command won't automatically reboot the machine to complete the domain join. If I add the restart parameter, the command will take care of that too. One final thing. Over the years, there have been several versions of Active Directory. We refer to these versions as functional levels. An Active Directory domain has a functional level that describes the features that it supports. If you're interested in seeing some of these changes to Active Directory over time, take a look at the next reading on AD functional levels. If you administer Active Directory, you will need to know what your domain and forest functional levels are, and may someday need to upgrade your Active Directory forest or domain to support new features. So let's look at the properties on this domain. So this domain is at version 2016. We can also find this from PowerShell like this. So type in get AD forest, and then get AD domain. See the forest mode and domain mode properties? Now that you know what your domain's functional level is, you can find out what AD features it supports. Check out the supplemental reading for a whole lot of additional documentation and training materials if you want a deeper dive into AD administration.